What's going on, everybody? I'm Aslan Hajimandi, joined by founder and administrator of Warchant.com, Gene Williams, and senior writer of Warchant.com, Corey Clark. Hit the thumbs up button, bottom of your screen, tap on it, click on it, whatever device you're using. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel here, totally free of charge. Get on it, everybody. We're going to get busy here soon. Spring football is about to start up. But a little bit of bittersweet news here on Friday as we talk to you folks. After an illustrious career, 43 seasons at the mic for Florida State on football, 3 years before that, even doing hoops, Gene Deckerhoff, the voice of Florida State athletics, I guess you could say, announced that he'll be wrapping it up and going off the air after the Garnet and Gold broadcast on April 9th. As we all know, Deckerhoff also is the voice of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of the National Football League. He'll continue that throughout the course of that contract. But what was your first reaction on Friday hearing the news here, Gene? It's such a big part of college athletics, especially college football in the South. Your team's announcer, your play-by-play guy is such a big part of the fabric of your fandom and such. What did it mean to you, to know that you had a guy like Gene Deckerhoff that was kind of announcing the biggest plays of your life, of your favorite team throughout all these years?
Yeah, like you said, he really is the voice of the Seminoles, and I think Corey and I have the same experience. You grew up. That's all we've ever known. We've ever known Gene Deckerhoff to be. He's the voice. I mean, he's it. I mean, when you think of Florida State and there's somebody calling a game, it's always him. And we have some stories, and Corey and I are sure going to share them here. It's going to be weird. And I know in the last probably 20 plus years, I don't get to hear the radio that much because we're in the media, so we don't get to hear it. But it's going to be odd when you hear a radio broadcast and it's not Gene doing it. It's just he's synonymous with Florida State football. So 43 years, it's something. And it's not just he's been there for a long time. He's really good. If you load the release we have on Warchant.com, he's won all kind of awards. He's one of the best there is in the business, and just so entertaining, so knowledgeable. And Gene does it the right, and a really good guy. Anybody who's running to him off the field, I say, or out of the box. Not off the field. He's talking about coaches, but he's just a great, fun guy to hang out with, and he loves it. I mean, you hear it in his voice, his intuitions, his emotions, but he's like that in person. He's just fired up. He loves what he does, and man, it's just not going to be the same without him.
Corey, what's your favorite call from Gene Deckerhoff? You're a Georgia guy, but I think you appreciate Gene Deckerhoff's voice maybe more than the great Larry Munson.
Yeah, I do. Well, and Gene was lucky. He had more wins to call than Larry Munson did the last 20 years of his career. Yeah, I think my favorite all time is, maybe it's because of the play itself, but it's an incredible call in the moment, and I've probably heard it 30 times, is the Ward to Dunn pass in the swamp in Florida in '93. He calls it perfectly, and then he says, and as Dunn's running down the field, he says he separates as the safety's coming over that was just way too slow-footed to catch Ward Dunn. And just the emotion in his voice, man. And that was the thing about Deckerhoff. Florida State fans were extremely lucky to have this guy. Number one, he's a good person. You don't have to worry about what kind of trouble your announcer's getting into on a Friday night before a game or anything like that. He is a good, genuine person. But he's so loved and was excited for Florida State football and basketball, for that matter. He's the soundtrack to I get nostalgic now. It kind of reminds me, and obviously Gene is still with us, thankfully, but it reminds me of the thoughts that started pouring through my head when Bobby Bowden passed away. It's just all the moments listening to Gene after games with my dad on the radio in the car, or watching the Bobby Bowden show, which was a Sunday treat for my whole childhood. And Gene was a big part of that. He was just so fun-loving and just, I don't know, genuine and generous. And it was just really lucky to have him. Florida State fans for 40-something years, to have a guy that not only was good. There's a lot of these dudes. If you've got XM radio and you listen to these other college football teams as you're driving somewhere, there's a lot of announcers that are just not good, that must have lucked into the job back in the 90s somehow and just don't bring it, don't seem to care, don't seem to like what they're doing. Gene loves what he's doing and loved what he was doing with Florida State. So it's a sad day, man. I mean, I hope he enjoys his retirement. But it's a sad day to think about, mainly because it just reminds me of, well, we're all getting older, but like the 80s and 90s and how many memorable moments in my life he was the voice of.
Yeah. And I'll jump into and I've got it's a good memory, of course, but man, the one I have, it's a personal thing. It's where were you? You remember a time when a big Florida State play was happening and you were listening to Gene Deckerhoff. And to me, it was my freshman year in law school. It was 1989. Corey knows where I'm going with this one. The Fula from Pascagoula. And I'm sitting there with the old Walkman, but some of them, you got the fancy one that had the radio on it, So I've got that, and I'm perusing through the aisles and pulling out a law book. And then T-Buck does his famous fool up from Pascagoula, and I start running down the aisle, and people are looking like, what is this idiot doing? I mean, what's going on? Screaming and yelling. That was one of my favorites there for him. It just so iconic. So many great calls go. And speaking of, T-Buck, the return against Michigan was something. That play against them was so much fun if you get to hear that call. And I know that we have a thread up on warchant.com right now that's pinned that Tom Lang, and a lot of people are putting their favorite plays up, and they've got now the nice thing is you get the YouTube. So they'll run the YouTube video highlight along with Deckerhoff's call. And you want to go down memory lane, there's some really fun ones in there. We've just touched on a couple of them, but there are literally dozens and dozens of great calls Deckerhoff has made.
But you know what's cool about Gene, and it's something that I don't think it rubs people the wrong way, Florida State fans necessarily, but it's something that you have to get used to, is the tenor and tone and excitement in his voice. It doesn't, like, you'll hear, Mick Huber, PK, Sam, caught. Like, you can tell he's devastated. And what I like about Gene and respect about Gene is he treated the Syracuse game this year, when Florida State was 0-4, he had the same tone and excitement in his voice as he did for the national championship game against Auburn or Virginia Tech. Like, you can't tell a difference with that guy. He was always, whether it was a big game or not, whether he was disappointed or not. And there are obvious times when he was disappointed. He's a Seminole. I mean, I know he went to another school, but he's a Seminole. And so he was really disappointed for a good long while for this stretch, like we all have been. And the fact that that you never could tell in his voice that, oh, here we go, there's lining up for a field goal. Let's see if he makes it. Like, he's always excited and always treated every game like it was the most important game in the country that week.
And he's a pro's pro. That's what you're saying. I mean, it is amazing. You're right. I never think about that, but you're right. The same emotion, the same tenor every single play, whether it's basketball, football, whether it's Jacksonville State or, they're playing the Gators. He's the same way all the time, and that's a lot of fun. And that's the thing. And Corey, I'm sure you've had some interaction with him personally. And I've got one I've got to share that was so much fun. And this was the famous fifth quarter in the French Quarter. And I got to hang out with him and the late great Vic Prinzi at Pat O'Brien's, right by the fountain, of course, sitting there. And of course, Gene, especially back then, was popping a few back. And let's say, there's a famous cheer that disparages the Gators that Gene was fully partaking in, which was a lot of fun to do that with Gene at the fountain, sitting there at the fountain. I think he might have been, if I remember right, been standing on the fountain with a bunch of us doing Gene. That. So that was a lot of fun. And then we got talking stories with Vic Prenzi, and then Gene suddenly wasn't there. And then Vic was very concerned that Gene is going to go off and get in trouble somewhere. And he had a broadcast the next day, so he had to track him down to make sure he got him back to his hotel room. So that was good times with Gene, and that's the kind of guy he was, man. He lived it. He loved life. He loves life. He's, like you said, thank goodness he's still with us. He's still going to do Bucs games. Yeah. And if we had him on, I think the first question I would ask is, Tom Brady's wasn't coming back, would you still do the Bucs? And I guess he's under contract technically, but I'm sure they'd let him retire if he wanted. But he's thinking, Brady's back. Maybe he can do another Super Bowl.
I don't know. I mean, Jordan Travis is coming back, and that didn't keep him at Florida State. Gene, I don't know what you're trying
Jordan
to do.
Travis, Brady,
there's as Aslan rolls through that, I was going to say, I did a story on Gene back at the other job I was at the Democrat, like 5 years ago, when he lost a bunch of weight. And looked great, by the way. And I just remember talking to Keith Jones, who was his longtime partner on the basketball games. Keith Jones, I love him, but he can be a cantankerous sort. But I asked him about Gene. I'm like, look, man, off the record, if it has to be. He goes, no, that's fine. Is he as good a guy as he appears to be? Because anybody watching this that has met Gene in person, he's always engaging. He'll always give you the time, at least for say, go Noles or a pose for a photo or something. He always has been like that. But I asked Keith, I'm like, hey man, is Gene as genuine as he seems? He goes, Corey, I've never met anybody like him. He goes, some other people will be talking about bad talking someone, whether it's in the administration or a football player or anything. And Gene will never take part. Ever. Mm-hmm. He does not say anything bad about anyone. He is the most generous spirit in the best person I've ever met, because he just genuinely likes people and he doesn't want to hear negative things about anyone. And again, I just think that his whole zeal for life, as you were alluding to, it comes out in his broadcast, man. Yeah. And again, very lucky that Florida State got for 40 years, not only a great broadcaster, but a guy that that Florida State fans could relate to, and was one of them, and enjoyed it. And broadcast, who knows, 1 million games? I'm sure there's a count somewhere way in the thousands of games he broadcast, basketball and football. And Florida State fans, again, I'll just keep saying it, we're really lucky. He is a good person, and was and is a really good broadcaster.
Yeah, what's amazing, and if you ever talk to, and I've asked Gene before, I've said, look, I don't get how you do it. So there's a night road game in Winston-Salem,
Yeah.
and then there's a 1 p.m. kickoff in Green Bay for Tampa. I like, how are you doing that? That's not possible. And I'm amazed. I mean, because of that passion you're talking about, Corey, that's why he probably did this as long as he did.
Yeah.
To be able to do both NFL and college at the same times in this day and age, I mean, it's crazy to have to travel what he's been able to do for as long as he's done. So it's a tribute to Gene, and that's because he loves it so much. I sat next to him during the spring media session we had. And right away, second he sat down and we started talking about Brady. Is he coming back? And credit to Gene, he still was like, I think he's coming back. And sure enough, he nailed that one.
There you go. He had some inside knowledge.
Yeah, that's what I was like, what's the scoop? What's going on with the quarterback? And I think Brady still might be coming back. So, but that passion you've talked about, Corey, for him to do what he's done for 40 plus, I don't know how long he's been with the Bucs, but it's been a long time too. For him to double dip and do both of those jobs at the same time, that's a testament to him and his dedication, his professionalism, and his passion for the sport. So, Gene,
Absolutely.
we thank you for your service. We'll still be Garnet Gold game, like you said, he'll still be for that, and we'll get to listen to him. Hopefully, because I'm unlike you, I'm a Bucs fan, so hopefully I'll be able to hear him in the Super Bowl coming up here soon. But congratulations, Gene. Thank you for all your hard work.
Head over to warchant.com and submit your favorite call from Gene Deckerhoff and his time covering and calling Florida State games. For Gene and Corey, I'm Aslan. Thanks for watching this edition of Warchant TV. We'll talk to you all later. Have a great one.